You're listening to the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall, where we talk with successful business owners to hear the stories of their journeys in building their successful businesses. And more importantly, we recognize the folks who help them excel because we know that achieving business success is not something we can do on our own.
Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. Something unique about my guest is that he has ridden tens of thousands of miles with his BMW friends. That's a pretty cool story we're going to ask him about. In his downtime, he likes hanging out with family and driving his cars on race day, and he's most proud of his amazing wife and his family. It's my pleasure to welcome Jim to the show today. Hi, Jim.
Morning, Tim. How are you?
I am awesome. Thanks for asking. Well, hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us your name and a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live and about your family and hobbies.
Well, my name's Jim Anderson. I was born in Lafayette, Indiana. Graduated Harrison High School in 1980. Married my beautiful wife, Cindy, in 1984. Have 3 lovely kids, 8 grandchildren. Lifelong resident of the area, and I love my hot rods. So.
Yeah, tell us about your BMW riding. That's thousands of miles. That's incredible.
A group of friends that I always rode, lack of a better term, crotch rockets, and my friends grew up a little bit and they got into street touring bikes, BMWs, and so I ended up getting one. And my first trip was to Stowe, Vermont, and then we went another time, a trip from here to through Kansas to Colorado, Pikes Peak, up through Utah, Montana, a lot of time in Montana, Beartooth Highway. And then back around to, we stopped at Mount Rushmore, and then back to Lafayette, and that was 5,000 miles that trip. And then a lot of trips to the Smoky Mountains. And I don't know, I think I've been in, 40 states on a bike.
Wow,
so
that's incredible. Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Jim, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Well, that's a good one. There's so many. I don't know. That's a tough one, Tim. You've got me there. I would say that I talk to myself some and answer myself some. I get that one quite a bit, right? I don't know how funny it is, but I tend to get some giggles out of that. But I got to admit, Tim, on that one, I can't think of anything off the top of my head too much.
I appreciate you sharing. So, Jim, tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Well, it came about is, I was an HVAC technician. When I got out of high school, like I mentioned before, when I got out of high school, I was wanting to be an IBEW electrician. That didn't work out just because they didn't take apprentices for 3 years. I mean, the economy was terrible in those days, and so I had to do something different. So a flyer came in the mail, go to Ivy Tech. So I did that, did the HVAC thing because that'd be something I thought might be up my alley. And so I worked for a couple companies. And then I ended up working for a company called Sagamore Heating Cooling. It was in Lafayette, and worked there for several years, 10 years, less than 10 years. And long and short, the company got sold. And when the company was sold twice within a year, the second time it was taken public in what I call a roll-up company, or I think they call equity acquisition today.
Yeah.
And everything just changed. And after that, working for a great company like that, I worked for a couple other organizations that didn't measure up and pretty well was just put out. I thought, well, if I can't do this on my own, I want to do something else because I just had enough.
Yeah.
And that's really how I got going. It wasn't over trying to make millions of dollars. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a function of it's what I needed to do. And really, I thought, if we ended up with 3 or 4 people, I thought that would be that would be a great thing. And it's went beyond that. And yeah, it's been an amazing ride, quite frankly.
That's cool. How many folks do you have on the team now?
We've always hovered around, I say always, we fluctuate between 45 and 50.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
And, people come and go. Most of the time when people come and go, they, either move or,
Yeah.
have something like that go on, or, maybe they get some super offer from God knows what. But we don't have that much turnover, fortunately.
Yeah,
And a lot of our help like that too is, summertime. So in the summertime, we're right at that 50 mark. This time you're closer to 45.
Jim, tell us more about the company. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Well, our company name is J.L. Anderson Heating Cooling Inc. And we do commercial, industrial, uh, and in residential HVAC sales, service, and installation. And we take care of a lot of things in our area that for sure most HVAC companies can't because of our commercial background.
Mm.
In our area, excuse me, there's not a lot of companies that really get in to the commercial side of the fence. And when I talk about commercial, we could be talking anything from a small strip mall to, like in our case, Wabash National, over at the Purdue Research Park, big systems, communicating systems that rely on direct digital controls, meaning we can throttle these systems from any computer. And so it's really, really a technical thing that we enjoy a lot. And in our area, at least, very, very few companies are capable of that. That's one thing that sets us apart. And quite frankly, I think bigger thing that sets us apart is our company culture that we really try to maintain. And it's at a really high point right now. So that's always something, it's kind of like being married. You always got to work on it.
Yes, indeed, for sure. Hey, Jim, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, and maybe even when you didn't know that you could, and the impact that that person had on you.
Well, there was, I can use names, right?
Yeah, of course.
Mike Baker Electric, became a dear friend of mine when my daughters and his daughters were playing on a baseball or a softball team way back when. And Mike, he owned his electrical company. And so he asked me, he was coach, he asked me to be basically his little grunt boy to take care of the bases and drive the tractor and all that. And I told him, I said, I'd really like to. I said, but I'm a tech, it's summertime. I go, I don't want to commit to something I can't do because I'm in the middle of something, right? And so he said, hey, that's cool. So we worked that out, and I never missed a time. I had to leave I'd go do my thing and then leave again.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I was working for a company, and Mike wasn't a fan of them, and I could understand why at the time. And he said, now, Jimmy, what are you working for that guy for? Why don't you go do this on your own? And I go, well, Mike, blah, 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 blah. Because
Yeah.
he goes, oh, don't let that stop you, right? And so he just kind of, pushed a little bit. And he's 100% right. So ultimately what I ended up doing, where I was working at the time, I could see that company wasn't going to last. And it didn't. And ultimately what I started doing, I just started prepping myself by going through the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce. Their SBA had a program where every month they'd have speakers would come in and talk about, legal, marketing, banking, counting, all these different things. And so I did the best I could to self-educate myself on that. And that helped a lot. And then I had another mentor. He'll remain nameless because he's kind of shy, but he really helped me get set up correctly on the QuickBooks, and just kind of held my hand with taxes and insurance because that scared the heck out of me. So anyway, that type of stuff right there, is what I really needed. And one thing I realized is, the chances of being successful were not real high. But failure wasn't an option. So, I mean, we've got this tug
Yeah.
that, you just got to make it happen. And yeah, it was no glory trip, that's for sure. So,
To that point, what's been your biggest learning as a business owner?
mm, well, I'll say this, and somebody asked me this before, and they looked at me and they almost in disbelief, like I was just kind of. I had really researched this so much and talked to so many different people, and just grown up, with my parents. I didn't have any huge shocks because I expected the worst of everything. I really did. And so, can you tell me the question again, Tim? What was
Yeah,
the exact
what's
question?
been your biggest learning?
Oh, learning part. I would say, on the business side of things, just all that's involved in it.
Mm.
As far as, just, for example, payroll, for example, or keeping yourself organized,
Yeah.
being able to run your own day,
Yeah.
being able to, choose your team
Yeah.
wisely, right? And quite frankly, before you can manage anyone, you got to be able to manage yourself. So you got to be able to manage your own day. And
Yeah.
ironically, the first person I brought on, I thought would be able to accomplish that. And it's just shocking the people that can't take care of themselves, let alone somebody else.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, while you got me on a roll here, the thing that really gets me is, and I was never this guy in the field. Okay. So when I was in the field, I didn't want to be a manager. I
Mm.
did not want to be a manager. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't mind being a project manager. I didn't mind being the leader on the job. I didn't mind that, but I didn't want to be a manager. And everybody and their brother wants to be a manager. And that I knew those guys had a load. I didn't realize what the load was until I really see it. I am not the strongest manager we have. I've got a couple very strong ones.
Mm.
I think I'm a decent leader, but the management skills to be able to run a department effectively,
Yeah.
um, boy, that's a talent. And
Yeah.
you run the balance. These guys got to run the balance of team building, holding people accountable,
Yes.
getting people mad at you,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these things. Somebody, get lack of a better term, get their cone red, and they want to quit. I
Yeah.
mean, and you have all these things, and it's in being fair and objective, because I can do that. All they're doing is trying to keep them accountable. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yep.
it makes it it's just interesting to see, because when I was a tech in the field, I just did not I just didn't think like that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting journey that people go on. Like typically people get promoted to managers because they're awesome doers. And then, right, and then they can make the mistake of continuing to do instead of managing other people to do. And so there's definitely a skill set, right, that's required in order to manage other people to results, right?
Now that's one type right there. Okay, so that to me sounds more like an owner. So that to me sounds more like your typical guy that would get into business, and he's going to stay in the field and not worry about all the rest of the stuff. What I'm talking about is the guy that wants to be the manager because he thinks he's going to sit there, look at the computer, got his feet crap popped up, and don't do anything all day. That's what they think. Not all of them. I'm not trying to stereotype, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there's like 3 or 4 guys that are not with us anymore,
sure.
because that's stinking thinking, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
anyway,
Managing is a tough gig, right? It's
it
not.
is, it is, and service management is the I mean, there's so many difficult jobs, but it is, if it's not the toughest, it's in the top 2 or 3, service management, and it can be very gratifying, and it can make you just want to pull your hair out. So.
Hey, Jim, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges over the years and someone who came alongside you and helped you through it.
Well, I would say, there's so many, but the biggest challenge I think was just having the courage to go forward.
Mm.
And so again, I had a really good friend. He knows who he is, and he was there, and he's still there today. I still use my mentors today.
Yeah.
And, his talents are not mine, mine are not his. And he was just a tremendous help to get going on the right path, and just a great sounding board. You got to understand, I mean, when you got 3 little kids, you got $10,000, you have, low debt, the mortgage, but taking care of the kids, right?
Yeah.
You got 10 grand and you got to make it work. Every morning when you get up, I mean, you want to be ill,
Yes, right.
and until you get it together. And so you go out and you do your thing, and then you just realize that, hey, I got to make this work. Now, that said, in my particular case, I did have a HELOC that I had, 50 grand on. So
Okay.
that was my escape route in case it all just went kaput, but that wasn't an option to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, but you never know. You fall and break a leg, you're done.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true that a lot of business owners are in that scenario, right? If God forbid, if something happened to them, right, and they can't work for 3 or 6 months, right?
So you're out of business.
Yeah, the business shuts down. So yeah.
Yep, that's for sure.
Jim, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit and ask you to pick 3 people throughout your business owner journey that you're most grateful for them being there to help with the growth. And who are those 3 people and how they help you?
You know what? I would say a guy named Al Poor. He was a project manager.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb too. Another guy, his son, Colin Poor, he took his place actually. They're on our contract side, and Colin's really taken it to a new level.
Nice.
He really has, because on the when I say contract side, I'm talking commercial projects,
Okay.
installations, construction, that type of thing. Another one, God, I could go on really. I mean, can I pick more than 3?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and most of these people team members today still, but a guy named Dave Leffert, and again, my great friend Jeff Cobb. I mean, he was, the guy that was just always there for that sounding board to just help. And there's so many, to the point of, the name of your show, what's the name of your show again? Not to say Self-Made Man, or
Self-made. Yeah, self-made is a myth. Yeah.
it is a myth. And even if you're all by yourself and you're doing everything, calling every shot, making every decision, if you don't have somebody buying something from you, you're nothing.
Yeah.
If you can't sell your product, right?
Yeah.
So every client out there that uses you, if you don't have them, you're not self-made.
Right.
I had somebody say to me at work one day, well, 2 things, and I'll volunteer this information. So somebody said in a company, I said one day in a company meeting, I said, and I don't really attend them anymore. I got my leadership team, and so I want people to talk, so I'm not around. So I said, guys and gals, I said, who the heck pays for everything around here? Who pays for everything?
Yeah.
Well, you, boss. The boss don't pay for nothing. I don't pay for nothing. The client pays for everything. And we were trying to make a statement on customer service. And that's kind of where that came from. And then when somebody says, well, boss, I would, if somebody's not like being held accountable, I would just simply say to them, I said, you know what? I said, I have to answer to all kinds of people. I said, number one, I said, everybody in this that works here is my boss. If they ask me to do something, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, I'm going to find somebody that can.
Right.
And I said, furthermore, some of them have moved, died, quit us, God knows, but we got, I don't know, close to 50,000 clients that we've done business with in 25 years.
Wow.
They are all those people are my boss.
Yeah.
And if you want to sit here and think you're the boss, you're a fool. My opinion.
Jim, as you think about the next 1 to 2 years, what's your number one priority or the challenge that you need to overcome in order to achieve your goals?
Well, right now, I think that we are in better shape as far as infrastructure processes, programs, and things going on in our business, our accounting, everything is 100% on point. Let me put, maybe not, nothing's 100%, but as close as it's good as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And we have so many of those processes that are repeatable to the point where we could pretty well draw a book how to run the company.
That's awesome.
And so, I'm 62. I have a son in the business. I'm assessing right now, and I've got a handful of what am I trying to say, consultants.
Yeah.
Trying to help me figure out the next step for this company in Gen 2. Not that I'm going anywhere, but on the other hand, I gotta have it set. So I got a son in here, and if that's what after going through the drilling, he's going through here in the next several months, if that's something that he wants to do and it makes sense, himself and another partner inside the place, I mean, I think we can make that happen.
Yeah.
And if they give me a little job, that'd be wonderful. But that way I can ensure the culture of the company doesn't change.
Yes.
Radically, at least. I mean, obviously they can do what they want with it, but I just don't think it would change radically. Yeah. And that is really important to me because I don't want, how can I say it? We have people that have been with our company pretty well from day one, and some of those people have already retired.
Wow.
And, so we have guys that have been there for over 20 years and some 15 years, right? And 10 years and just a lot of time. And they're our core group, and I can't throw them under the bus. If you sell your company, chances are, from what I've seen in the past, the team's going to get ran over, and that I can't let happen.
Right. Yeah. I love that you've got that philosophy of taking care of them. Succession planning is it's a lot of work. It's a big deal, and right. And making sure you're setting up the next generation to be able to have that legacy continue. But I think it's the right thing to do for all the reasons you said, right? Take care of the team, set up the future, know that the culture is going to maintain itself. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than just simply selling to an equity firm or something like that.
Well, it's consuming, and it's been consuming. And I had one of those mentors told me another guy mentor. His name was Scott Brown. Good friend. He's out there someplace. He retired, and he's got a place in Florida and a place in Michigan. So he's either up or down, right? So anyway, he was on me from about the day I started. Well, what about your succession plan? I'm thinking, Scott, I don't even know if I got a job next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, my advice to our guys, I'm gonna tell them, a lot of different situations, because they'll have a machine animal up and running on all cylinders, right? With a big mortgage payment to go with it. My situation was I was doing everything I could to get to something that that you could sustain and you could rely on.
Yeah.
My advice to those guys is going to be, the day you sign on the dotted line that you're the man of this company, you got to start figuring your way out.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep.
Always be planning on it, because my son's 33, other guys probably 43, right? And time goes so fast.
It sure does. Yeah. That's actually one of the first things that we do with new clients is determine what's the end date. Right. And then the goal of our engagement is to build the business to run without the owner, so that they can start thinking about next generation and having a well-oiled machine that's able to be passed down, and that legacy is able to sustain itself. So.
Well, I would say 10 years, to your point, 10 years into our company, it could have ran itself. And actually, it was running really well, and I mean, we did fine through COVID as well as anybody else. But I've been more involved in the company since 20 till now, and again, right now we got things lined up again. We're kind of lighting up a little bit. My goal right now is I'm intentionally not going into the office as much. I'm still working, running my meetings, but I'm just doing things more remote, so I don't want to be a distraction. I hear my son flourishes more when I'm not around.
Okay, yeah.
And he has never been my direct report. I would never have it.
Yeah.
He has never ever when he goes out and introduces himself to somebody, he never even tells them his last name. I mean, he's just that kind of kid, and that's one thing I really respect about him a lot. And yeah, he's humble, beyond humble,
Yeah,
and
very cool.
and rightfully so. It's the way to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Last question here. Jim Rohn said that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So
Yeah.
you've mentioned mentors a few times. As you think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
Well, you bring up another great point. Choose your friends wisely. And it's funny how yeah. So in other words, you're saying you do become who you hang with.
Yeah.
I do believe that. And I had my dad.
Hmm.
I mean, he was heck, he was a paratrooper in the Korean War.
Wow.
He passed away in April. He's 94, and man, I learned so much going through all the stuff I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so, like my father, the mentors that I spoke about, and again, I'm trying to articulate. Ask me the question again because I got out in the weeds.
Yeah, no worries. There are some people who think that they should do it on their own, that they can't ask
Hmm.
other people for advice, and that right that they're oftentimes struggling through it. So what advice would you have for those people who aren't reaching out to others?
Well, the same guy that okay, you become who you hang with,
Mhm.
and and if I said this to a kid that I was a great kid that now has a heck of a successful business that worked. He was a spinoff of our company. And I can't remember exactly what was going on. He was talking about his friends, and this kid had it together, and he's talking about his dingbat friends. And I said, well, perhaps you should pick some better friends. And I think it resonated.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it resonated. But back to my other mentor friend that he was general manager of a company called Berkheimer's,
Okay.
which is a wholesaler. And he said to me, he said, he goes, Jimmy, he goes, what you got going for you is you know what you don't know.
Mm,
And essentially, I think that's what I've said this whole thing.
yeah.
You got to know what you don't know. And that's not a function of lack of confidence.
Yeah.
It's just a function of being real to yourself.
Absolutely. Yes.
And like taxes, insurance, that type of thing, right? I was a legend in my own mind. I was a very good technician, and it is very complex. At the same time, I had enough sense to know that, okay, I don't know anything about taxes, insurance, payroll.
Yes.
I just know that you don't want to mess with the government. They don't like it
Right?
when you don't pay your taxes. And so, I already knew this. And again, I think it's just from good parenting. And then also too, I think helped me as well is, coming up, growing up, getting married, getting down on your luck, I mean, having, health problems with premature identical twins, all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Then you get yourself in a bit of a financial jam. You work out of it. And I think that was a big part that helped make us successful here was something that just seemed like you'd never get out of, worked out of it perfectly over time. And then if it wasn't for that experience, I don't know if I've been tough enough to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like, Jim, that you've been blessed with some incredible people throughout your business owner journey. If they were all
Oh,
here
yeah.
on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
Thank you very much. I mean, I wouldn't know what else to say really. And no, it's just been and there's people they just want to see you succeed.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of people that that you don't even know who you are that come out of the woodwork and they start hiring you, right?
Yeah.
And then like in our particular case, the growth came from. So, you did a good job working for the other guy. I never went and tried to poach one customer,
Yeah.
not one. And they just figured out where you migrated to. And I didn't realize how big of a following I had.
Wow.
Okay. So then, at the time I was working in the field
Hmm.
and so I knew who was who and they knew me and I'd worked with them before. they saw the companies getting some traction, then they wanted to come over because they had the same problems I did. They didn't want, it was just a
Sure.
lot of goofiness at the
Sure.
time. And then they would bring their following,
Yeah.
right? People that were following them.
Yeah.
We bring on another great guy. Then their following comes. And most of these were commercial clients that's how it happened.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Bottom line. And without all those guys, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Right. Yeah.
And so, we have the full benefit package. I mean, about anything you can think of and more, we do for our team. Yeah. And, I think like they do. I still can't get past it. I can think like a businessman.
Yeah.
Very, very clearly. I can also think like a tech in the field sitting on a roof, 0 degrees with snow blowing up your back. So enough of that.
Jim, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Tim.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.